My name is Nora. I am 31 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. Last Thursday, my mother called me at 6 in the morning. I was half asleep, reaching for the phone on my nightstand, thinking someone had died. Nobody had died. She just wanted money. "Nora, sweetheart," she said, her voice dripping with that sugary tone she only uses when she needs something. "Your brother is buying a house. A beautiful craftsman in Lake Oswego. 4 bedrooms. But they are short on the down payment. We need you to cover $60,000. I sat up in bed. The room was still dark. I could hear rain tapping against my window. $60,000. She said it like she was asking me to pick up milk on my way home. I didn't answer right away. I just sat there, holding the phone, staring at the ceiling. These were the same people who emptied my college fund when I was 17 to bail my brother out of a gambling mess. The same people who told me scholarships build character. The same people who watched me work doubles at a truck stop diner, while carrying a full course load because they had nothing left to give me. And now they wanted $60,000 so my brother could have a nice house with a yard. Something cracked open inside my chest. Not broke. It had been broken for years. This time it just finally made a sound. But let me start from the beginning. Like and subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. I grew up in a 2-story colonial in Beaverton, just outside Portland. From the outside, it looked like the kind of house where happy families live. White siding, blue shutters, a basketball hoop in the driveway. But inside, the rules were different depending on which kid you were. My brother Dylan was 2 years older than me. He was loud, charming, and reckless. He had this big grin that made people forgive him for everything. Teachers, coaches, neighbors, my parents, especially my parents. I was the opposite. Quiet. Careful. I liked reading and drawing maps of imaginary places. I got straight A's because I liked learning and because somewhere deep down, I thought if I was perfect enough, they would notice me the way they noticed him. They didn't. I remember being 9 years old. It was a Saturday morning. I had been practicing piano for 3 months because my parents promised that if I passed my recital, they would take me to the Science Museum in Seattle. I had been dreaming about it. I had circled the date on my calendar with a red marker. The night before the recital, Dylan got into a fight at a friend's house. He punched a kid in the nose over a video game. The other kid's parents called. Furious. My father had to drive across town at 11 at night to pick Dylan up. When they got home, I was sitting on the stairs in my pajamas listening to them yell. My mother was crying. My father was pacing. Dylan was slouched on the couch looking bored. The next morning, my recital morning, my mother sat me down at the kitchen table. "Nora, honey," she said, rubbing her temples. "We can't go to your recital today. Your father and I need to deal with Dylan's situation. The other family wants to have a meeting. We might need a lawyer." "But I practiced," I said. My voice sounded tiny. "I know, sweetie. But this is serious. Your brother could get in real trouble. You understand, right? You are so mature for your age." I went to the recital alone. My piano teacher drove me. I played the piece perfectly. Nobody clapped for me except the other parents in the audience. When I got home, my mother asked me how it went. I said fine. She said good and went back to making calls about Dylan's situation. We never went to Seattle. That was just the start. Dylan's problems became the family's full-time job. In middle school, he got suspended twice. My parents hired a behavioral specialist. In high school, he crashed my father's car into a mailbox. They bought him a new truck because he needed reliable transportation. He failed 3 classes his junior year. They hired tutors. They begged the school to let him retake exams. Meanwhile, I was invisible. I won the regional spelling bee. My mother forgot to come. I got accepted into the honors program. My father said, "That's great, kiddo," without looking up from his laptop. I scored in the top 2% on the PSAT. My parents didn't know what the PSAT was. The summer before my senior year, I found out something that changed everything. I had been saving for college since I was 14. Babysitting, dog walking, selling my artwork at the farmer's market. I had about $2,000 in a savings account my grandmother had helped me open. But the real money was supposed to come from my college fund. My parents had started it when I was born. Grandma Ruth, my mother's mother, had contributed to it every birthday and Christmas. By the time I was 16, there was supposed to be around $45,000 in it. One evening, I overheard my parents arguing in the kitchen. I was doing homework in the dining room. They didn't know I was there. The fund is empty, Karen, my father said. His voice was tight. We used the last of it for Dylan's lawyer fees and that rehab program he didn't even finish. I know, my mother whispered. But what about Nora? She is going to ask about it. She'll get scholarships, my father said. She is smart. She will figure it out. Dylan needs us right now. Nora is fine. She is always fine. I sat at the dining room table, my pencil frozen above my calculus homework. $45,000. Gone. They had drained my future to clean up my brother's past. I didn't say anything that night. I went to my room and lay on my bed in the dark, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I had stuck on my ceiling when I was 7. The stars I had arranged into actual constellation night. Now as a kid, I wanted things to be accurate. I decided something in that silence. I decided I would never need them again. A few weeks later, my grandmother came to visit. Grandma Ruth was 73 years old, sharp as a blade, and she could read a room faster than anyone I knew. She found me in the backyard sitting on the porch swing. "You are too quiet," she said, sitting down next to me. "Even for you." I told her about the college fund. I watched her face change. It went from soft to stone in about 2 seconds. "They spent it," she said. "It wasn't a question." "On Dylan," I said. "All of it." She was quiet for a long time. She looked out at the yard, at the basketball hoop my parents had installed for Dylan. "Come to my house tomorrow," she said. "Bring your laptop." The next day, Grandma Ruth and I sat at her kitchen table and applied to every scholarship we could find. She made me write 15 personal essays. She proofread every single one. She called the financial aid offices of 6 universities and argued with them until they reviewed my application again. By the end of the summer, I had a full tuition scholarship to Oregon State for computer science. It covered classes, but not room and board, not books, not food. Grandma Ruth wrote me a check for $2,000 from her retirement savings. "This is your deposit and your first month," she said. "After that, you work. But you never quit." I hugged her so hard I thought I might break her. The next 4 years nearly broke me instead. I lived in the cheapest housing I could find. A converted garage behind a family's house. It had a space heater that worked half the time and a bathroom so small I could touch both walls with my arms outstretched. I worked 2 jobs. Mornings, I shelved books at the campus library. Evenings and weekends, I waited tables at a barbecue restaurant off the highway. The smell of smoked brisket soaked into my clothes so deep I couldn't wash it out. I went to class smelling like a smokehouse. I ate what I could afford, which most days was rice and canned beans. One winter, my heater broke for 2 weeks. The landlord was in no hurry to fix it. I slept in my coat, under every blanket I owned, exhaling clouds in my own room. I called my mother once during that time. "Mom, my heater is broken and I can't afford a space heater. Could you maybe send me $50? She sighed. "Nora, money is very tight right now. Dylan just started a new job, and we are helping him get set up. He needed work clothes and a security deposit for his apartment. Can you ask your roommate?" I didn't have a roommate. I had a garage. "Sure," I said. "I will figure it out." I figured it out. I always figured it out. I went to a thrift store and bought a sleeping bag rated for camping. I zipped myself into it every night like a cocoon. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself that one day I would have a warm apartment with actual heating that I paid for with my own money and nobody could take it away. During those years, my parents called maybe once a month. The conversations were always short and always about Dylan. Dylan got promoted. Dylan met a girl named Amber. Dylan is doing so much better. Isn't that wonderful? They never asked about my classes. They never asked about my grades. They didn't come to my Dean's List ceremony. They didn't come to the awards banquet where I won the cybersecurity competition. Grandma Ruth came. She drove 3 hours and sat in the front row wearing a purple blazer and a proud smile. She was my entire cheering section and she was enough. I graduated summa cum laude. My parents came to graduation. They took photos. My mother posted them on social media with the caption, "So proud of our girl." I stared at the comment. Our girl. As if they had any part in it. At the graduation lunch, my father clapped me on the shoulder. "See?" he said. "We knew you could handle it on your own. That's why we didn't coddle you. We were building your independence." He said it like he was taking credit for the sunrise because he didn't close the curtains. I smiled. I said thank you. I didn't have the energy to fight. I just wanted to eat my sandwich and go home. After graduation, I got a job as a security analyst at a tech firm in Portland. Within 3 years, I had been promoted twice. I made good money. I moved into a clean, quiet apartment downtown with big windows and a view of the river. I bought a piano, a real one. I played it every evening after work. Nobody interrupted me. Nobody canceled my practice. I sent Grandma Ruth flowers every month. I took her to dinner every Sunday. I started a savings account, and I watched the number grow like a plant I was watering with my own sweat. My relationship with my family became a formality. I showed up for Thanksgiving and Christmas because guilt is a powerful drug. The dinners were always the same. My mother fawning over Dylan and Amber, my father asking Dylan about work, me sitting at the end of the table, eating turkey, answering questions nobody asked. Dylan, to his credit, had gotten his act together somewhat. He had a decent sales job. Amber was a dental hygienist. They were fine. But fine wasn't enough for my parents. They still treated him like he was the crown prince of the family. They helped him buy furniture. They co-signed his car loan. They gave Amber a family ring when they got engaged. When I bought my apartment, nobody offered to help me move. When I got promoted to lead analyst, my mother said, "That's nice, honey. Oh, did I tell you Dylan and Amber are thinking about kids?" I stopped being hurt by it. I just accepted it the way you accept that winter is cold. You don't argue with the weather. You just put on a coat. Then came the phone call. 6 in the morning. $60,000. After I hung up on my mother, I couldn't go back to sleep. I got up, made coffee, and stood by the window watching the rain. I thought about the $45,000 they stole from me. I thought about the sleeping bag in the garage. I thought about the brisket smell I couldn't wash out. They wanted $60,000 for a house. For Dylan. I called Grandma Ruth. She picked up on the second ring. She was always awake early. They asked for money. I said, "How much?" 60. For what? A house for Dylan. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What did you tell them?" I didn't tell them anything yet. I hung up. "Good," she said. "Come over for breakfast. I'm making waffles." I drove to Grandma Ruth's house. It was a small ranch-style home with a garden out front that she maintained with the dedication of a general commanding troops. She was in the kitchen, waffle iron steaming, coffee already poured. We sat at her table. She listened while I talked. "They said Dylan and Amber found their dream house," I said. "But they are short $60,000 for the down payment. Mom said they have been helping with what they can. But the market is crazy." She said since I don't have kids and I have a good salary, it would be easy for me. "Easy," Grandma repeated. She used that word. She did. "There is nothing easy about it," Grandma said, pouring syrup on her waffle with deliberate care. "That money represents years of your labor. Years of sacrifice. They didn't sacrifice with you. They don't get to harvest with you." "Dad is going to call next," I said. "He always does the second round. Mom softens you up. Then Dad comes in with the guilt." "Let him call," Grandma said. "You know what you are going to say." "I do." My father called at noon. He used his serious voice, the one that used to terrify me as a child. "Nora, your mother tells me you were rude to her this morning." I hung up because it was 6 a.m., and she was asking for $60,000. "It's an investment in family," he said. "Dylan has worked hard. Amber is pregnant. They need a stable home for the baby. You are in a position to help. Family helps family." Where was the family help when my college fund disappeared? The line went quiet. I could hear him breathing. "That was different," he said. "You had scholarships. I had scholarships for tuition. I lived in a garage, Dad. I slept in a sleeping bag for 2 weeks because my heater broke and you wouldn't send me $50. You were too busy buying Dylan work clothes. We did what we thought was best. You did what was easiest. Helping Dylan was easy because he demanded it. Ignoring me was easy because I never complained. But you don't get to come back now and treat my bank account like a family emergency fund. If you don't help," my father said, his voice turning cold. "This family will remember. Dylan will remember. Amber will remember. Don't be the person who let her nephew grow up in a cramped apartment because she was too selfish to help." "My nephew," I said, "will grow up knowing that his parents earned their home. That is a better lesson than anything you ever taught me." I hung up. That weekend, my parents escalated. They did what they always do. They called relatives. They told a version of the story where I was the villain. Aunt Patty called to tell me I was being heartless. Uncle Jim sent a text saying family comes first. My cousin Megan posted a vague quote on social media about people who forget where they came from. I didn't respond to any of it. I blocked the noise, but it hurt. It hurt more than I expected. Being painted as the villain by the people who made you one is a special kind of cruelty. Tuesday evening, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole. It was Dylan. He was alone. He looked tired. His jacket was wrinkled, and he was holding a paper bag from the taco place down the street. I opened the door. "I brought food," he said. "Can I come in?" I let him in. We sat on my couch. He handed me a taco. We ate in silence for a minute. "Mom and Dad told me what happened," he said. "They told you their version," I corrected. "Yeah," he said. He rubbed his face with both hands. "Look, Nora, I didn't ask them to call you. I didn't even know about it until Amber told me your mom had been texting her about a payment plan." "A payment plan," I repeated. "For my money. I know how it sounds. Do you?" He put down his taco. He looked around my apartment. He looked at the piano. He looked at the bookshelves. He looked at the framed photo of me and Grandma Ruth at my graduation. "You did all this yourself," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. Mom and Dad didn't help." "No. And the college fund." He paused. "I found out about that 2 years ago. Mom let it slip after a few glasses of wine at Thanksgiving. She said they had to redirect your education money for my legal stuff." "Redirect," I said. "That's a nice word for it." "I'm sorry," he said. He looked at me. His eyes were red. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I was ashamed. I'm ashamed of a lot of things. I didn't expect that. I had prepared for a fight. I had rehearsed arguments. I had built a wall and was ready to defend it. I wasn't prepared for an apology. They spent $45,000 on me," he said. "Money that Grandma Ruth had saved for you. And I blew it on stupid mistakes. Gambling debts, lawyers, a rehab I walked out of after 9 days. I wasted your future. I built a new one," I said. "I know," he said. "And I'm sitting in it right now, eating a $3 taco, wondering how you even look at me without hating me." "I don't hate you, Dylan. I am angry, but I don't hate you." He nodded slowly. "I'm not taking your money," he said. "I told Mom and Dad tonight. I called them before I came here. I told them to stop asking you. I told them Amber, and I will figure it out ourselves." "What did they say?" He laughed, a tired sound. "Dad said I was making a mistake," Mom cried. "She said I was turning against the family. Same script they used on you." "Welcome to the other side," I said. He smiled weakly. "It's cold over here." "Yeah," I said, "but at least it's honest." We talked for 3 hours that night. It was the longest conversation we had ever had. He told me things I didn't know. He told me that the pressure of being their favorite was its own kind of cage. He said they never let him fail because they were terrified of what people would think. Every time he messed up, they threw money at the problem because fixing him was easier than facing the truth that their parenting had created the mess. He said Amber had been begging him to set boundaries for months. He said the pregnancy had changed something in him. He didn't want to raise his kid the way they raised us. "I don't want my son growing up thinking someone else will always bail him out," he said. "And I don't want him thinking he has to earn love by being useful." That last part hit me, because that was exactly what I had believed for 20 years, that my value was in what I could provide, not in who I was. The next week, my parents called a family meeting. They insisted. They said it was important. Against my better judgment, I went. Grandma Ruth told me to go. She said, "Face them. You are not the same girl who played piano alone. You are a woman who built her own stage." I walked into my parents' house for the first time in months. It looked the same. The basketball hoop was still in the driveway even though nobody had used it in years. The kitchen smelled like my mother's pot roast. They were sitting at the dining room table, Dad at the head, Mom to his right. Dylan and Amber were there too. Amber was showing now, her belly round under a soft gray sweater. She gave me a small nod when I sat down. "We need to discuss this as a family," my father began. "This situation has gotten out of hand. Nora, we asked for help. You said no. That is your right. But the way you have handled this, the hostility, the coldness, it's torn this family apart." I looked at him. "You drained my college fund without telling me. You watched me struggle for 4 years. You never helped me. You never acknowledged it. And when I finally have something you want, you show up with your hand out. If this family is torn, you should look at where the first rip was made. We already talked about this, Mom said. We explained. Dylan needed help. You were strong enough to manage on your own. I was 18, I said. I was a child. You decided I was strong enough because it was convenient for you. You didn't test my strength. You abandoned me and called it a lesson. Nora, Dad said. His jaw was tight. We are your parents. We deserve respect. Respect is earned, I said. You earned Dylan's loyalty by buying it. You never bought mine because you never invested in me. The only person who invested in me was Grandma Ruth, and she did it with money she couldn't afford to spend. Dylan cleared his throat. Everyone looked at him. Nora is right, he said. My parents stared at him. What? Mom whispered. She is right, he repeated. You gave me everything and it made me weak. I'm 33 years old and I have never solved a real problem on my own. Every time I failed, you caught me. And every time you caught me, you used Nora's money, Nora's share, Nora's future. I didn't earn anything I have. And now you want to do it again, with 60,000 of her dollars. Amber reached over and took his hand. We've talked about this a lot, Amber said. Her voice was calm but firm. We are not taking Nora's money. We will find a smaller house. We will save longer. Our baby doesn't need a 4-bedroom craftsman. Our baby needs parents who stand on their own feet. My mother started crying. You're all ganging up on me, she sobbed. After everything I've done, I gave up my career to raise you two. I cooked every meal. I drove you to every practice. You drove Dylan to every practice, I said. I walked. The table went silent. My father looked at my mother. She looked down at her hands. I think, for the first time, they actually heard it. Not as an accusation, as a fact. I'm not asking you to feel guilty forever, I said. I'm asking you to see what happened. I'm asking you to stop pretending it was fair. And I'm asking you to never ask me for money again. If you want to be in my life, it's free. It costs nothing. Just show up. Ask me how my day was. Come to my apartment and eat tacos and talk to me like I matter. That's all I ever wanted. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked old. He looked like a man who was seeing the ruins of something he thought was solid. We didn't mean to hurt you, he said finally. His voice cracked. I know, I said. But you did. I stood up. I didn't storm out. I didn't slam anything. I walked to the front door calmly. Dylan followed me out onto the porch. You good? He asked. Yeah, I said. I'm good. Amber and I found a 2-bedroom condo in Milwaukee, he said. It's small, but it's got a yard. We close next month. No help from anyone. That's great, I said. And I meant it. Come over when we move in, he said. I'll grill burgers. Fair warning, I'm terrible at grilling. I know, I said. Remember the 4th of July when you set the deck on fire? He laughed. It was a real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from him in years. I'll bring a fire extinguisher, I said. I drove to Grandma Ruth's house. She was sitting on her porch in a rocking chair, reading a paperback. She looked up when I pulled in. How did it go? She asked. I said everything I needed to say, I told her, and Dylan stood up for me. She smiled. It was the kind of smile that holds a whole life of patience in it. Sit down, she said. The sunset is nice tonight. I sat next to her. We didn't talk for a while. We just watched the sky turn orange and pink over her garden. The rain had stopped. The air smelled clean. I thought about justice. I used to think justice meant my parents suffering the way I suffered. I used to fantasize about them needing me and me turning away. But sitting on that porch, I realized justice wasn't punishment. Justice was this. It was sitting in peace with the person who believed in me when nobody else did. It was my brother choosing honesty over comfort. It was a 2-bedroom condo earned with honest money. It was a piano in my living room that nobody could take away. 2 months later, Amber had the baby. A boy. They named him Owen. I held him in the hospital. He was tiny, warm, and completely unaware of the mess his family had been. Dylan looked at me holding his son and said, I want him to know his aunt, the real you, not the version Mom and Dad sold. Deal, I said. My parents came to the hospital too. My mother held Owen and cried. My father stood awkwardly by the window. When I walked in, my mother looked up. Nora, she said, you're here. Of course I'm here, I said. She didn't say anything else, but she shifted over on the couch and made room for me to sit next to her. It was small. It was barely anything, but it was the first time in my life she had made space for me without being asked. I sat down. We passed Owen back and forth. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about the past. We just looked at this new little person who had no idea what it took to get us all in the same room, breathing the same air, trying. I drove home that night with the windows down. The Portland air was cool and damp. I thought about the girl who slept in a sleeping bag in a garage. I thought about the woman who played piano alone because nobody came to her recital. I thought about Grandma Ruth and her waffles and her purple blazer and her $2,000 check that changed everything. I pulled into my parking spot. I went upstairs. I sat at my piano and played the same piece I performed when I was 9. I played it perfectly. This time I was my own audience, and I was enough. If my story resonated with you, you are not alone. So many of us grew up in homes where love was distributed unevenly, where one child got the safety net and the other got the lesson in resilience. Setting boundaries with family is terrifying. Saying no to the people who raised you feels like cutting your own roots. But sometimes saying no is the only way to find out what you are really made of. Have you ever had to stand your ground with your family? Did you struggle with the guilt? How did you find your peace? Share your story in the comments. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength in the hardest places. And remember, your worth is not measured by what you give to others. It is measured by what you refuse to lose of yourself.